My name is Gary. Pastel. Josie. I have MS. I have MS. MS is what we have. I take Ocrevus. An infusion treatment that's 2 times a year. For adults with relapsing or primary progressive forms of multiple sclerosis, Ocrevus is proven effective in reducing relapses in RMS.
What about now?
I'm so excited. I'm sorry.
3rd time's a charm.
I'm so sorry. That was probably so loud. Y'all have no idea because I shouldn't have deleted that other video. But dang it, it was. We should have saved it for bloopers, man.
We have so many bloopers.
It was so funny. Like I could not hear her to save my life, and it was, I don't know, 7 minutes of figuring that out. But here we are. We made it.
We're back.
We are back.
So I guess let's just let you take us wherever you want in your journey, and we'll start there. So what else do you have written down over there that you kind of thought about this week?
I mean, shoot. I mean, I guess, yeah. I guess the direction I would go, I mean, I just didn't really handle it right. Like I said, I think we kind of left off with just me making a series of silly choices and over drinking and, just finding all the wrong outlets.
Mm-hmm.
And that led to another series of traumas, including the 2 DUIs. I struggled. I was seeing a therapist who was prescribed, anxiety medication and things for the PTSD, and I struggled with insomnia for it seems the better half of my life, and I was on Ambien, and I didn't fall asleep, and I was seeing pink and purple elephants in the sky. And I had no idea. I was driving 3 miles an hour with my emergency lights on at a stoplight 2 blocks away from my house. I had no idea what I was doing. Apparently, I went to go see my friend. Last thing I remembered, I wanted to go to bed. But you see the bright lights and just.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy. There was a whole mess of a thing, but like the whole thing was going to get beaten. I was able to prove the side effects of the medication, et cetera, but ultimately I just wasn't making the right decisions, and I ended up getting another DUI 11 months later. It was a month before that case was going to get dismissed, and I was actually drinking and driving. That was just awful situation. It just put so much stress on the family, and it was costly. I believe we spent like $24,000 on attorneys and lawyers and court fees, and ultimately I was not able to get out of that situation. And I had to do 30 days in jail, which was something all in itself. I was very fortunate enough to be in a pod of decent people. It was like other DUIs and just silly things. We got caught up for them. We were do the crime, you do the time.
Right.
As cliche as that is, it was a learning experience. I learned very quickly that the group of friends that I was associated with at that time were not leading me in the direction that I wanted to go, and I lost privileges very quickly, and that was really hard to rebound from. But at that point in time, I was like, okay, I'm 21. I should have been almost graduated from college yet. That hasn't happened. I was just off track, and
off track, right? Like
right, exactly. Because I had this idea of where I was supposed to be, and the set road that you're supposed to follow and go down. And I'm so blessed with the experience that I have today, because it molded me into the person I am, and I'm grateful for who I am today. But at that time, I was like, oh my God, I'm so far behind.
Right.
And
Right.
that, it just fed into a lot of negative uh, emotions and I just was not self-serving in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, working through that was hard, but I did learn really great things. It was a hard lesson to learn, but um, I was it was rocky. It was rocky, man, because I had to do it on my own, and I faced homelessness several times, and for me, thank God it wasn't as traumatic as it could have been
Mhm.
by any means, but it was just like I have to be careful with my mindset on money. I
Mhm.
do. I'll catch myself like in those moments, like I'm getting close, like I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to eat next? Like, I go into that
Mhm.
panic mode,
They're like
and
survival mode.
yeah,
Mhm.
I start panicking, and then I'm in survival mode, and it's so anxiety filled, and it's crippling. It's a crippling mindset to be
Yeah.
in, and yeah, thank God it is. That's a part of my life that's that, but it brings it to like those triggers, man. It brings you
Mhm.
back to that day, like you're almost reliving it. I'm like,
Yeah.
but then you remind yourself that you can take a deep breath. That hey, I've overcome a lot. It was a lesson learned, and it taught me how to manage my money more appropriately and to
Right.
start saving accordingly. And it taught me how to budget. It's a hard lesson that I had to learn through that. But yeah, it was just that was crazy.
Yeah, it definitely taught you, right, like to prioritize your things and like you had that on your list that like now you need to have that like stable shelter and like although it brings up those emotions and those feelings, like you really have learned how to kind of work around that now, right? And try to calm that emotion from all of that trauma, which is, I mean, ultimately what we want to do with all of the traumas, hopefully, that we've experienced in our life at some point is to be able to work through them like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of good came out of it too. I
Hmm.
It was a crazy, crazy time, man. I'm gonna have a whole movie about my band days, okay, and
Yes.
celebrations. But that came out of being homeless
Hmm.
and putting all my faith in God that I would find a way. And I was literally, I'm like, and this sounds so bad, but I was like, I can sell my T-shirt. I can sell. I've got some gummy bear, whatever. I've
Yeah.
got like I can sell the help me sell these things so I can like pay for a hotel to sleep in
Hmm.
for the night, so I can have a roof over my head, so I can eat something.
Right.
And all of a sudden, these kids, hey, we're staying at this hotel over here. We sell magazines door to door. We travel the country. I'm like, oh my God, you're living my dream.
Let's go.
I know. I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. Because I just came up with a bucket list. Not very much. I mean, that was before Colorado, right? I had my whole bucket list. You
Hmm.
remember my bucket list. Oh my God,
Hmm.
it's epic. It's like
Yes.
172 things long. And I'm going to slow dance in front of the Hollywood sign and float in the Dead Sea.
Yes. Yes.
Irony.
Yes.
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 Oh my gosh, all the good things. And I was like, I'm gonna um, drive down the coast 101 and like hit all the beaches and like I did all those things. It was so cool. It was so much fun. I went to Mardi Gras, crossed that off my bucket list. Vegas, all these just amazing, incredible experiences. So it did lead to some beautiful moments and uh, crazy stuff. I'm all about stories. I love
Right.
stories. I've got some great stories for another time, of course. But um, even that, as everything has a chapter, came to uh, it just the energy shifted right when we got into the car accident, and it killed our it killed Keely. It killed our our manager, and he owned the business, and he saved all of our lives. And he gave me so much, and for so long I want to carry out his dream of just changing people's lives, and he saved so many kids, picked them up off the street, got them sober, got them off drugs, gave them a job. They were able to put money in their pocket, food in their bellies, and just and create a life for themselves. And there was, I want to say, like 30 of us at the time on our crew, but in the day of the car accident, there was 8 of us in the car, including him. The van flipped and crushed him, and he died. And I broke my back. One girl broke 27 bones in her body. Like, we were just broken.
Mm-hmm.
That was crazy. That took a lot. And even still to this day, I will not get in a 15-passenger van ever again. I laugh, but I just won't. It's just, it's scary. It's so, it's one of those things that, I almost wonder, is it something I'm ever going to get over?
Right.
And, I ask myself that. And I don't think, who knows? I think,
right.
It's kind of like when you lose somebody, you don't ever really get over that, ever. That pain it'll always be there.
Mm-hmm.
That never gets easy. But being acceptant and just being able to really work through your own emotions and navigate through that and figure out how you can make it serve you and whatever it may be,
Right.
But yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy. And my sister, it was so funny. We were driving the other day, and I lost it. She was behind a semi, and the semi came to like the most sudden halt, and I guess she had her spatial recognition nailed, but I didn't think she was braking fast enough. So I'm like, in the front seat, going like hitting the brake, like I have a brake, right? Like I can do something, and then it goes to just losing my effing mind, just like lost it. And she turns to me, and we're like at a perfectly safe stop at the red light, right? Everything's good, and she's like, "Really?" I'm like, "You were gonna kill us!" Like, I just go to that extreme. I'm like, "What were you thinking?"
Yeah, I don't know. Car stuff is hard because, like, even I mean, I've not been in an accident that bad at all, but I've been in a few accidents, and like just the sound that happens when something happens to a car, they're just so big. Like, there's just a noise, a sound, a sudden stop, like, and those things all sit with you for a long time. And like you said, it's like, I don't think you ever, with something like that and a trauma like that where you lost somebody out of it, or things were so severe in that moment in time, right? And so ingrained in you now that, like, I don't think you ever, like you said, I don't think you ever truly, I mean, you can truly heal from it, but I don't think you ever let it go, right? Like, you just learn how to deal with it better, or learn where to put it in your mind that you can still function on a day-to-day basis, right? And that's how, like, if you don't do that, those important steps, if you hadn't worked through this probably a million times by now, right, on how to get your mindset right on this, and that's where so many people, like you said, retreat and don't make it out of things like this. And that's where our heart lays in all of this, and all it, because it's uncomfortable sharing all these things you're sharing, I'm sure. And it brings emotion no matter how many times we talk about them, no matter how many times we try to work out our feelings on it, it still brings up that raw emotion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just, sometimes it's just, you gotta close your eyes and breathe. And like, if I'm in an Uber, like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't watch what's happening, because I know I'll just I'll freak myself out, and I'll just like,
Mm-hmm.
the car's not slowing down, and that's exactly what it is. I'm just like, I'm overanalyzing. So I'm investigating and dissecting every motion. So I'm just like, we're good. And I just close my eyes and breathe in the back seat. I'm just like, we're good. We got a 10-minute
Mm-hmm.
car ride. We're good.
I can do anything for 10 minutes, right?
Yeah. Can I keep my eyes closed for 10 minutes? Yeah.
They're doing just what they should. Perfect.
It'd be like 3 minutes. Okay. 2.
Right. And I don't
um,
think there's any timeline on that, right? Like I think that's the important thing for people to remember too is like when you're getting over or when you're dealing with something, when you're healing from some event, it's not there's no time frame on it, right? Grieving is a process specific for, what that person in general, I think. So like it's great that now you've gotten yourself to where you can even get into a car, without having an extreme panic attack. I mean, like I said, I've never been in that extreme of an accident, so I can't even, like, I'm sitting here trying to imagine what that might be like to actually lose someone from an accident. And that's just not something I've experienced from an actual car accident. But uh, those moments, I mean, it truly is, right? Like if we can work through those, and you've gotten to the point now where like you just know, like, come into your mind and breathe, and you're not letting it hold you back anymore. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it. You can
yeah.
you can cry about it, you can talk about it, but you've moved past it.
You can't always choose the things that happen to you, but you sure as hell can choose how you react to them. And
Right.
that's where I find the most grace in finding peace
Mhm.
in what I've been through, because I'm still in control, and I'll be damned if I let it consume me, because I've seen what it does to people. Um, and my mother, bless her heart, and I guess this is kind of trauma too. I saw her spend her life consumed by her past trauma,
Mhm.
and she lived that every single day,
Mhm.
and it destroyed her mentally, physically. Like and it will literally drive a person to insanity
Mhm.
if you choose to focus on. I mean, it's really, a lot of it is mindset. A lot
Mhm.
of it is choosing to heal, and or with her, a lot of it was choosing to stay in that victim state, and
Mhm.
that's where she found a lot of her comfort. Is you know, and I saw how it didn't serve. So I'm like, okay, how can I do this differently? Because
Mhm.
we have areas that are shaded very similarly, where we've experienced similar things.
Mhm.
But how can I do this different? How can I make my path a little bit more clear? How can I redirect or reshape where I'm headed out of this?
And I think you've had, like, I know for me, it's when you've been in those situations where it's quite literally like a life or death sort of thing, you find the importance of seizing the day and finding a reason or a purpose to get up and to live this life. And I think when you've been through them, I think there's a lot of good benefits, right, that come out of trauma. I really do. Um, like we wouldn't have this platform and doing everything that we are doing without the traumas that we've had. So like I am fully blessed for every trauma, but I think I don't know, I'm really impressed with like how far you've gotten, and you got to celebrate that. Like even though it may not feel like we're truly healed from it, we have to celebrate our work that we do with traumas just as well as we do like our physical work or our job or what.
A lot of good can come out of it if that's how you choose to look at it. And there's so much empowerment and so much strength that comes out of you know, not just surviving it, but thriving from it, you know.
Right.
And we talk in a lot of the studying that I've done and personal growth, you know, I've listened to a lot of talks about surviving and thriving, and there's a big difference. And, you know, some people live to survive, and it's you know, it puts a different energy on it, you know. You're constantly in that survival mode.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah, it's been an interesting journey, to say the least. But what you say is very valid. There's so much good that's coming. We wouldn't have this platform if it weren't for what we've experienced, and you know, even through the people that we lost to suicide, they are very much fueling this, and why it's really so heavy on our heart, like to make sure that people feel heard and feel loved, and to make sure that people know it's okay to hurt, and it's okay to go through things that are painful, and there's still a lot of control, and you can take your life back from that. It's never the end. It's never the end. And there's always so much that can come out of it, and there's so much beauty. And you know, it's never. It's just. I just want to say, take it one day at a time. It really is that way. Take it one moment at a time.
Right.
Because one moment to the next, I could hear a car crash outside my window and be in a completely different state. But you take that moment for what it is, and you learn from it, and you evolve from it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done my makeup. Dang it.
It's all right. It's all right.
I'm such a hot mess. I'm so sorry, y'all. But it's something that we're very, very, very passionate about, which is why we're doing it. It's important.
Yeah. Yeah, walk us through a little bit of that trauma, and like we said, this is kind of how we got to this platform and like where the passion comes from. But like, how did you deal? Because like we both have lost, but like we keep saying it, it's so the stories are different, right? And the ways that we dealt are different, and just the emotions and the feelings are so uniquely our own. So how did you deal with it around that certain time? Because if you guys didn't know, like we were separate at this time, like when that happened, and like when I lost, Megan was separate from me, and she wasn't around, like in the area. And when she lost, to suicide, I was not near her. So kind of walk me through it too, of how you dealt in the moment, or closer to the event.
It was crazy. So I was just so head over heels in love with this person, and we had been together for such a long time. Even the breakup in itself was just very traumatic, because I had shaped my entire world around us and
Right.
him. It wasn't me anymore. Everything was us. And that was just so hard. Like after the breakup, and I had moved out and got my own place, and we were still, you know, working things out, and you know, I always had it in my head, we're gonna make it, we're gonna make it, we're gonna whatever. So every day, I was still existing in a sense like we were still together, like this was it. So there was really never any closure. I didn't let myself close it out. I always held
Right.
on to that hope, and it was, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was false hope that I shouldn't have been holding on to, and it just made it that much harder. So I'm gonna say it was just over a year after the physical separation of the breakup, and then we had about 6 months of working it out,
Yeah.
and we still had the connection, and then all of a sudden I stopped hearing from him completely. But I still kept going. I still kept going. One day he'll see we're meant to be. You know, you get into that mindset. I'm a hopeless romantic, and I was just so invested, and that was it for me. I didn't have anything else to. That was it. I was going to rescue animals, and have my true love, you know.
Yes, girl.
And I had the house, and then I was about to get my license, and I was just like, he's gonna be so proud of me. He's gonna see this. I'm gonna post it on Facebook. Then I got my license, and I had like passed the test or whatever for the next step. And I was about to post it, and I got the phone call that he had taken his own life. And I just lost it.
Mm-hmm.
I had no sense of anything. Like, it was like the ground just got ripped out from underneath me. My whole world just flipped upside down. Like, my why was gone. Because I made him my why. He was my why.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is on me. Because of what I choose to invest my time and energy and focus on. But dang it, when you lose someone you love, it's just, oh my gosh, it's enough to just put you to your knees.
Mm-hmm.
You lose your breath, become numb. That was really, really hard. And I kind of like, I guess I went through that denial stage for all too long, where I really didn't face it. And it was 2 years later. It was 2 years after that, and it was the 2-year anniversary of him passing. And I snapped like it had happened yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Just lost it. Like, what the hell is this? And when I went on a drastic switch from no meds to a bunch of meds. It was just a bad combination, and I fritzed out. I don't really know how else to put it. It was like it's just a snowball effect.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like dynamite stuffed in a snowball, rolled and rolled and rolled with all the junk and rocks in it, and then it just exploded and spurted all the crap and destroyed everything. It was awful. It was just, yeah, that took a lot out of me. And
Yeah.
I came so close to just calling it quits, and I wasn't taking care of myself at all. It was, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It was just hard to find a will.
Right.
I had no why, you know?
Right. Yeah, your whole world has to flip, and I think it's totally natural, right? Like what you said about when you didn't deal with it for 2 years, like I have a very similar healing process in my own, is that like I did not deal in that moment. And I think it was, definitely our body's way of saying that we were not ready yet to even start processing those feelings. I mean, they are so heavy, right? And we've gone from like when you were 3 and hearing these traumatic things, and we've gotten through like you've been through so much already, right? And your body just like after so many hits, right? It's you kind of gotta your body does what it's supposed to, right? And as long as we serve our body serves us, I think. And even subconsciously, like when we're not thinking about it, our body does so much for us as far as like if we're not ready to handle, we kind of go into that mode, right? And then someday when you're ready, all of a sudden it feels like it truly happened yesterday. And then how do we move on and start healing? Because I don't know, the word move on, right? Always kind of like doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah. Don't. It's not like that.
Right. I don't think move on is the word. I just understand it differently. I keep coming up with different ways to understand it, different ways, now with this platform, different ways that we can use our experience truly to make a difference. And I mean, this so much so as to, what's in our mission statement and what we give back to for everything with MR2 is truly like in those little moments of time. And I think that's what's so crazy about mental health and why it's so important to talk about it and to raise your voice is that all this took was a moment in time, right? That was too hard to handle. And I've been there so many times, right? So many times I've been in a moment where I thought my world was going to end. Oh, that was it. I'm done. This is hard. you know, like, and I think at this point, I've had it explained to me as like you get to choose your hard, right? And you just have to choose your hard because life is hard, right? Like you just got to choose where you're at and what you're able to kind of handle at that point. And um, it's just so crazy to see where we've gotten from the hurt and the pain and how we're able to use this platform and still work through our own stuff, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love it. I love it so much. And oh man, we've got our vision for it and our mission for it is just, it's so incredible, but it's just on another level, phenomenal to see it evolve and really come to life. Because it's really the most important thing in the world is to make sure that you raise your voice and speak up in these moments. Life will hit you. I mean, I was writing out my time. I'm like, holy guacamole, I've just got like a whole page full of traumas.
Yep.
I'm like, no wonder I'm writing a book, you know? But so much of this, and this is not, you know, these things, it's not like I sit there and think about these things every day, but, you know, you learn, I'm like, okay, so this is where this is kind of stemming from, and you kind of see and reflect how, you know, it's shaped you, how it's shaped your thinking, how it's just really, it's amazing, and it's amazing to see the amount of power that you can gain from the things that you go through and the things that you experience. There's so much power when you take it into your own hands and really take control. It's just amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, pain is definitely power if, you know, if thought about it correctly, right? And used correctly. And some one of the things I always think is like, when will I ever be able to tell like my story without truly crying? You know, like that to me is like when I'm like, oh, I will have mastered my story the day I can say it without crying. And like I don't even know if there's like, you know, I don't even know if that's true to be the time in which you're healed, right? But I just feel like each time, like I used to not be able to talk about it without looking like, I mean, just bad, right? Just like ugly mess, you know? And then like as we start to kind of exercise those muscles of like sharing it as a story to help and to heal more than sharing it as like we're in that moment again, I think there's a lot of difference there when you choose how you're sharing that story.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even ever think of it that way. See, I was before I was like getting my mind right, you know. I'm like, I want to keep myself somewhat composed. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, if I don't cry, there's something wrong with me.
Okay,
I'm like,
but
am I really that callous where I'm not gonna cry over this? You know, so I was like totally opposite.
see, but like that's crazy because like where you would use humor, usually I would have the emotion, right? But like now, like when I think about healing and I think about like my traumas, like I don't cry and I find I'm so bothered by that because then I feel like I don't feel it, right? And I feel like disassociated with my traumas and like something's weird about that.
Right. That's kind of where I was. I'm like, what was it? It was like the first, it was like when I shared part of my story. I don't think I shed a tear. I really don't. I think I got choked up a little bit at one point, but then I went back and watched it. I'm like, we're really that detached, or was I just really that zen, you know?
Right.
But then I really didn't really go into a whole lot of deep seated things, I don't think. But even in talking about, you know, losing loved ones, and I was like, why didn't I cry?
Right.
Like if somebody, you know, you get news that somebody passed away, and you're like, oh my god, that's horrible. Like what? No, like
Hmm.
I feel like I should be crying over this.
Right. And that's what I think too. Like we have to normalize like unique reactions to it, right? Like I don't know, are we supposed to cry? I don't know.
Everyone reacts differently.
Right.
And it's
Like
so cool. I think it's so cool because I'm like, you gave me a whole different perspective. I'm like, holy crap, that's kind of true because you think of a lot of, you know, motivational speakers and people who share their story, and you know, they'll bold face say, hey, I walked in and saw somebody, you know, off themselves or whatever, you know,
yeah.
whatever the trauma, like, and they'll say it with a straight face. I'm like, holy cow. So there's, I guess, yeah, it's
Well, I
different.
wonder, right? Like the coach that we have, like is that the tie-in between trauma and boundaries? Because like when I'm thinking about our coach, I thought like trauma and boundaries. I was like, that seems really separate to me. But if now that we're like talking it out, I'm like, oh, so you have the traumas, right? And then to actually truly heal from them, you have to put in certain boundaries to not be like affected by the traumas. Maybe that's it.
That's what you mean. But okay, so I was trying to figure, because you kept saying boundaries. I'm like, what do you mean by boundaries?
Yeah.
So, okay, I guess that, like, okay, so how I put the walls up in the Uber, like, I'm like, just breathe. I don't see it. Kind of like you
Yeah.
put the blinders on. Okay, that makes sense. So,
So
in
you've
a sense,
created that boundary like for yourself, like you will get in there. You're not gonna allow that to like affect your life. You're still getting that, but you've created that boundary, and then like that's what you have to do to protect you from like maybe reliving that moment every time you get in the car, right? So you're like, okay, shut your eyes and breathe. I don't know. Guess we'll
yeah,
see.
no, that's a good point. There's just so many different things. And for me, like I had mentioned earlier, a lot of, working through the trauma was just finding the purpose in it. For me, was
Mm-hmm.
finding purpose. Like everything happens for a reason. I'm such a firm believer on that. And a lot of that is just my faith. But everything happens I went through this for a reason. Why? And
Right.
finding that brought so much light to it. I'm like, holy shit, I'm awesome.
Right.
I made it
Absolutely.
through. And I do. I really do. So I'm like, damn it. Not a lot of people make it through that with their
Right.
head held high. And I praise God, like I'm able to carry myself with a little bit more grace than I was before. Um, but yeah, finding that. And yeah, I never really found the why in the freaking out. So I just put the boundaries up. So that's where
Yeah.
boundaries come in, right? If you can't find the why, put up the boundaries because then it's not serving you. So that
Right.
makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Right. You're like we'll think on this.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, I'm really excited to see what she has to say and the light she has to spit. I can't wait to hear her story.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super interested to see what her story's about and like how she's able also to like deal with trauma and boundary work on a regular basis, right? That isn't your own, and like being able to detach. I think like because like when I talk about trauma, I'm like very empathetic person. So like even talking about your trauma, it's like I'm gonna have to go like work this off a little bit, or it's gonna sit and I'm not necessarily gonna know what it is, and it's just gonna sit and it's gonna make me in this weird energy, right? So I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what she has to say and how she's able to really like make her energy right on a daily basis and still take in everyone's traumas.
Yes, because it's just all about the energy, and we keep going back to that, but it's just so true. And trauma can breed a lot of fear, and that's
Mm-hmm.
just a lot of nasty energy that I just don't like to carry with me, and I do my best to put up the boundaries and block off the things that are going to create that anxiety. Um, like a lot of that, and the closing my eyes to just woosah is taking away. I'm blocking out that fear that I have when
Mm-hmm.
I get in the car.
Right.
I'm just yeah. I'm trying to think. I'm thinking back of the things I kind of touched on. That's really the only thing that drives a lot of fear, I guess I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But well, that and the loud voices.
Yeah.
Like when I hear yelling, I'm like, but then I kind of take a look at the situation and then realize that it has nothing to do with me and it's none of my damn business.
Right. Or like you're not in it. Like you don't have to serve. Like you don't have to have your
Right.
energy serve it because it's not your.
Right. Not
Yeah.
my monkey, not my zoo. So why is my
Yeah.
energy being affected right now? Like this is the last thing that I need. Okay, bye.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited for this whole trauma series. And even as we start to be more of a student to like trauma and boundaries as these 4 weeks come along, and just to see when we wrap up the episode together and what we've learned and where we've come from our traumas, I'm just so excited to see the growth because it's exhausting work, but it is the most rewarding when you can do work on yourself and truly put power back in your own hands and get the power from the pain that you've endured is truly, like, I think one of the best feelings.
Oh
Um,
yeah, absolutely. The day I realized that everything in my life was within my control, like it was, I created it, I did it, like I can get myself out, I can create the life I want, I can manage and filter the energies that I need, I can navigate through my emotions correctly, like all that is within myself. And I, for so long, gave that power to everybody else because I just wanted to blame everything else. And
right.
the universe hated me, and I gave all the control back. Like, I just shot it all away. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wait a minute, let me reel this back in here and take my life back. And that was
Right.
just, oh, the most liberating thing. And it's just so cool. And I just, thank you, thank you, thank you for being my partner in this. Like,
Yes.
MR2 Connections is, I'm telling you, we're an empire, man. We're a force to be reckoned with. We are going to be globally known, and I'm so excited. And we just love you and appreciate you so much for all the love and support you guys have shown. We've got an amazing episode this Saturday. So this weekend's been a little crazy. We were playing it by ear, but the universe willed it in a different way. We were able to just put together this amazing series, and it's going to be so cool. But we've got Mariah's story next week.
Yep.
Not next week.
This week, yep.
Saturday. This Saturday at 6 p.m. Central. Mariah will be sharing her journey with the traumas and the PTSD. So we'll be going in a little bit more about that. And then we'll have our guest speaker on the 16th. So thank you again for all your love and support. Stay tuned. And until next time, keep those good vibes spreading.
Bye, guys.